A second attempt by the Home Office to deport a 27-year-old woman has been blocked after a court issued a last-minute injunction. Opelo Kgari arrived in the UK 14 years ago from Botswana and was detained in Yarlswood Immigration Centre with her mother. Last month, a deportation attempt was thwarted, but both were again set to be deported yesterday. Her mother was allowed to remain on the grounds that she is a victim of torture. And at the last minute, Opelo's deportation was also deferred after she was put in a van to Heathrow Airport. The Home Office says it is considering the case. So how strong is Opelo's case to remain? Well, to discuss this, I'm now joined by her former solicitor, Shoaib M Khan. Shoaib, I say former solicitor, you were actually acting for her until, what, this afternoon? So,
yes.
So tell us, what do you make of her situation? What's going on here? What's the Home Office doing?
Well, basically, as you said yesterday, in fact, it was the third time there were attempts to remove her. One was last year. So she has been in this situation for a very long time now. As happened last night, for the third time, she was actually in the van being taken to Heathrow, and at the very last moment she was brought back. In fact, her mother was actually in another van being taken to Heathrow as well, and it was only then, due to the court injunction being granted, that they were both brought back.
Many might be wondering why I'm saying you were just representing her up until now. Just briefly fill us in why you're not at the moment.
Well, I can't say too much about that, but just considering the legal strategy in terms of what we want to do further.
So you're not giving up as such?
No, of course. There are things happening, and in fact, the court injunction yesterday was granted on the basis that there is a judicial review pending, that there is a court case pending.
Can you give us an idea why somebody who's been here for 14 years is now suddenly facing deportation?
Well, generally because under current UK immigration law, 14 years isn't long enough for someone to be able to make a claim to stay here. Obviously, we believe, or I personally believe, I think, that's unfair, that's unreasonable, obviously based on human rights, compassionate grounds.
So all this has happened in the last year, though, this pressure to deport her, she's been going through this experience. It's been a 12-month process almost?
Mainly the pressure to remove her, attempts to remove her, have mainly been in the past 1 year.
Yeah.
But she has been going through this process for several years now. It was quite a few years ago when her asylum claim was first refused.
What does this tell you about the way detention removal is working at the moment in this country?
Well, it's inhumane, it's cruel, it's unacceptable the way it works. Regardless of her claim to be in the country, whether or not she should be allowed to remain here, the way that she was put on the van, the way that even her lawyers didn't really know what was happening, the way that she was allowed to make one phone call, she got through to me, she told me what was happening. That was the only way we found out. Even then, we could only really guess. It seems this is what the Home Office is doing. Obviously, that's completely unacceptable.
The Home Office deems, obviously, that she shouldn't be in this country anymore. What does she face if she goes back to Botswana? Because the Home Office says they would never send anybody back if their life would be in danger.
Yes, I mean, I would say to that, even if someone's life wouldn't be in danger, I don't think that's necessarily the standard we should be holding such cases.
I mean, we don't hear much about Botswana and human rights issues, do we? It's not on top of the list there, is it? Botswana more benign than most countries, I imagine.
Yeah, no, I mean, it may well be. But I think, obviously, what the Home Office has to be looking at is the life that she's established here. She was 13 years old when she was brought here. Obviously, it wasn't a decision as a 13-year-old to come and settle in the UK. She's volunteered here, she's studied here, she's been to school here, she has a very well-established private and family life here. She knows nothing in Botswana.
Was she seen as a troublemaker, Shoaib? Because she was obviously campaigning against the conditions in Yarlswood, hunger strike, and talked to the media too.
It does seem likely. It does seem likely. Obviously, she was, like I said, there were attempts to remove her even last year, so it's been ongoing for a while. But these attempts by the Home Office to keep sort of even her or her solicitors in the dark about what they're intending to do does suggest they are desperate to get rid of her as soon as possible.
Just briefly, what do you know about the conditions? Obviously, you talk to people in those circumstances. She had every right to complain about the conditions and go on hunger strike, from your perspective and what you know, just briefly?
Of course, I mean, I would suggest, even from my point of view, generally, the fact that we have indefinite detention, regardless of the conditions there, is, I think, reason enough for people to be protesting against that. You know, whether you've committed a criminal offence, there's always a time limit to detention, whereas this is for immigration purposes, but there is no time limit to how long someone can be detained.
Just briefly, do you have any hope for her? Do you think she will go back to Botswana? Just finally.
I think it's hard to say right now. Obviously, the case is ongoing, but yeah, we've not given up hope yet.